Welcome to Tech Talks with Kinsoft. Imagine holding the routing instructions for like 1.2 million bank accounts.
Yeah, that is a staggering amount of financial data.
Right. And you can't see the balances, and you can't just click a button to transfer the money out yourself, but you know exactly who owns every single account.
You know where they live, their names, everything.
Exactly. And even their government-issued tax ID. In January 2026, someone spent 16 completely uninterrupted days inside France's national bank account registry gathering exactly that information.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. So our mission here on the show is to take a stack of complex sources, security bulletins, official ministry reports, news articles, and just extract the most important nuggets of knowledge for you.
Yeah, we give you a shortcut to being well-informed without the information overload.
Getting straight to the context of why these events actually impact you. And today we are analyzing a massive exposure involving a system called FICOBA.
Right, FICOBA. And to understand the gravity of this event, we really have to establish what FICOBA actually represents.
Because it's not just a small regional database, right?
Oh, not at all. This is not a localized database for a single bank. FICOBA is the centralized national registry in France. It tracks nearly 300 million bank accounts.
Wow. 300 million.
Yeah, for around 80 million people. It is essentially the master index of financial existence within the country. If you have an account operating in France, your information is sitting in this registry.
Which makes it a staggering target for anyone looking for data. So our goal today is to examine how the data of 1.2 million of those bank accounts was walked out the door in late January 2026.
Right.
We're looking at why this wasn't a traditional breach, and crucially, what an attacker can actually do with this very specific combination of stolen data. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So the initial entry. According to reporting from TV5 Monde and disclosures from the French Ministry of the Economy and Finance, the attackers didn't break down any firewalls.
Right, there's no sophisticated hacking involved.
No, they didn't write some brilliant piece of malicious code to force their way into a mainframe. They just obtained the legitimate login credentials of a fully authorized civil servant.
What's fascinating here is they walked right through the front gate wearing the uniform, basically.
Yeah.
By using a legitimate authorized credential, the attackers were able to quietly access and query the registry for about 16 days.
16 days, over 2 weeks of uninterrupted access to a national database.
Yeah, before anyone realized a hostile actor was pulling records.
I have to push back on how we frame these incidents, though. I mean, we're calling this a massive cybersecurity vulnerability, but isn't this fundamentally just human error?
How do you mean?
Well, if a government employee gets tricked by a phishing email or hands over their password or, I don't know, writes it on a sticky note, no IT system in the world can patch human gullibility.
That is a fair point, yeah.
So why are we treating this like a sophisticated technical failure instead of just a basic human resources and training issue? This isn't an Ocean's 11 vault heist with lasers and explosives.
Right.
This is someone swiping the night manager's keycard and wandering the file room for over 2 weeks.
It's a great analogy, but that assumes the only layer of defense a system should have is the initial password.
Okay, go on.
A modern, centralized infrastructure holding the sensitive financial data of 80 million people cannot rely solely on a single point of human failure. When the perimeter is secured by a login, the behavior of that identity becomes the new security perimeter.
I see what you're saying.
Right, so if an authorized civil servant suddenly starts downloading or querying 1.2 million individual records, which is almost certainly far beyond any normal daily administrative workflow, the system should trigger an immediate anomaly alert.
So the failure isn't just that the password was stolen. The failure is the lack of internal alarms. The system saw that night watchman suddenly loading 2 tons of filing cabinets into a moving truck and just assumed it was part of his normal shift.
That is the core issue with legacy identity and access management. Intrusion detection systems are traditionally built to keep unauthorized people out.
Like a wall.
Right, like a wall.
Mm-hmm.
But when the system looks at the login and verifies it as an authorized user from a recognized portal, it often just waves them right through and stops monitoring their behavior. The system has no way of knowing the human behind the keyboard has malicious intent unless it is actively monitoring for bizarre data access patterns.
Yeah, and if I have 16 days inside that system without setting off any alarms, I am trying to grab every piece of valuable data I can find.
Oh, absolutely.
But The Ministry of the Economy made it a point to highlight what was not taken. The attackers could not see the actual account balances,
Right, that's an important distinction.
and they could not initiate direct transfers or card payments from inside the system.
Because FICOVA is an index, right?
Yeah.
It's not the bank vault itself. It knows where the accounts are, but it doesn't hold the funds.
Okay.
The French Banking Federation confirmed that the information stolen is simply not sufficient to allow fraudsters to log into a victim's bank portal and wire money away.
So what exactly did they get?
The specific data points accessed across those 1.2 million accounts included the international bank account numbers, so the IBANs.
Okay, the routing info.
Right. Plus the account holders' first and last names, their physical addresses, and in some cases, their tax identification numbers issued by the Directorate General for Public Finance, or DGFIC.
So what does this all mean? If I'm a victim and hearing that they can't see my balance or wire my money to an offshore account, I mean, that feels like a massive relief.
It does sound like a silver lining.
Yeah, it sounds like they broke into the registry but didn't actually get the prize. Why should you or I be worried about them just knowing my routing number and address?
Well, the danger lies in how the broader financial ecosystem uses that specific combination of data to establish trust. Think of it this way. While the locked front door, meaning your account balance and direct transfers, is secure, the attacker just grabbed the architectural blueprints to the house.
Ah, okay, that's not good.
No, it's not. The attackers don't need to log into your bank account if they can trick the rest of the financial system into pulling the money out for them. Both the French Banking Federation and the tax authorities have issued stark warnings about how this data is weaponized,
And how is it weaponized?
primarily through direct debit forgery.
Wait, a direct debit is just what I use to pay my water bill or my gym membership. It's essentially auto pay. How do you forge that if you aren't the utility company?
Right, so in the European banking system, and many others globally, direct debits are built on a foundation of systemic trust. A legitimate creditor sets up a mandate to pull money from your account. Fraudsters exploit this by setting up a front company and registering with a payment service provider as an authorized debit issuer. Armed with your exact IBAN, your full name, and your physical address, they literally forge a debit mandate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they present this mandate to the banking network, which looks at the perfectly matching personal data and just assumes you have authorized this new company to withdraw funds for a service.
Here is where it gets really interesting. They are weaponizing the convenience of auto pay. It's like giving a criminal a stack of your blank checks.
That's exactly what it is.
They might not know how much is in the account and they can't log in to check, but they can keep writing them to pay for their own Netflix or electricity until the bank finally notices the signature is faked.
Yes. And subscription fraud is another major vector here. Fraudsters use the stolen IBANs and matching identities to sign up for various high-end subscriptions, software licenses, or, cloud hosting services.
Stuff they can resell or use themselves.
Yeah, right. They receive the real usable services, and the billing is silently routed to the victim's account through those forged mandates. It relies entirely on the victim not noticing small recurring leaks in their monthly statements.
Until the victim catches a weird $50 charge from a company they've never heard of. But there is a second layer to this threat, isn't there? Because the physical addresses and the tax identification numbers aren't strictly necessary to forge a digital subscription.
No, they aren't.
So what is the attacker doing with that specific, highly sensitive information?
They use it for social engineering. Honestly, the psychological threat here is arguably more dangerous than the automated fraud.
Oh, so?
Armed with your exact address, your name, your tax ID, and your IBAN, an attacker can execute a highly targeted phone scam. They call you, spoofing the caller ID to make it look like your specific bank.
I can see exactly how this plays out. They start the call by verifying my home address and referencing my tax ID. Instantly, my defenses are gone. Because who else would know my internal government tax identifier and my banking route except the bank's fraud department?
They build immense credibility in the first 10 seconds of the call, using the stolen registry data. Then, they pivot to creating a sense of panic. They tell you that your account is currently under attack, ironically, and that to secure your funds, they need you to read back a security code they just texted to your phone.
But the text isn't a cancellation code.
No.
The attacker is sitting at their computer trying to log into my actual bank account using my email, and they just triggered a two-factor authentication code. They are using the panic and the trust they built with the FICO data to make me hand over the final key.
You are handing them the keys to the vault while believing you are locking the door.
Yeah.
It is incredibly manipulative.
So how do you even defend against that?
Well, the French Banking Federation has laid out very specific, actionable advice for listeners caught up in this exposure. First, you have to check your accounts and monitor listed transactions weekly. Yet do not wait for the monthly statement to arrive in the mail. You need to watch direct debit transactions closely, because European banking rules give you an 8-week window to dispute a fraudulent direct debit and have the funds reversed, without question.
8 weeks is a generous window, but if you have auto pay set up for a dozen different services and you aren't checking line by line, 2 months can fly by.
Absolutely.
And if you miss that window, that money is just gone, and you might be funding someone's server farm indefinitely.
Right. And the second critical piece of advice is hypervigilance against inbound communication. Banks generally do not call you and ask for your passwords, your usernames, or your two-factor safety codes.
Yeah, they just don't do that.
If someone calls claiming to be your bank, no matter how much accurate personal information they recite to you, hang up the phone. Look up the official number on the back of your bank card and call the institution back yourself.
That is a sobering reminder of how vulnerable individuals become when seemingly harmless data points like a routing number and an address are combined and weaponized. But I want to zoom out for a second.
Okay.
Because this level of data exposure makes individuals highly vulnerable, but zooming out, this breach is actually part of a much larger, more troubling trend for the French government.
It really is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the pattern is hard to ignore. We are seeing a rapid-fire string of cyber incidents hitting French institutions.
Let's go through the timeline.
Just 2 months prior to the FICOBA exposure, a massive distributed denial of service, or DDoS attack, disrupted the websites and mobile apps of the French Postal Service, La Poste, and its banking subsidiary, La Banque Postale.
Okay, so that was just 2 months prior.
Right. And around that same time, there was a cyber attack that compromised the email servers at the French Ministry of the Interior.
And if we look back to March 2024, there was an enormous breach involving France Travail, the National Unemployment Agency, and CAP employees.
Yes, exposing 20 years' worth of job seeker data.
We are talking about decades of citizen data, email servers at the Ministry of the Interior, the Postal Service, and now the National Bank Account Registry. Are we seeing a coordinated siege on French infrastructure, or is this just the new normal for any government that centralizes decades of citizen data?
Well, taking an impartial look at this trend, it is vital to see how centralized databases like FICOBA, which tracks 300 million accounts, act as massive honeypots.
Honeypots, meaning they attract every threat actor out there.
Exactly. When governments consolidate data to make civil services efficient, to make tax collection seamless or to streamline welfare distribution, they inadvertently create highly lucrative targets.
So it's not necessarily a coordinated political siege, but just criminals going where the money is.
Right. Decentralized data is a nightmare for a civil servant to manage, but a breach only affects a small, localized segment. Centralized data is wonderfully efficient, but a single compromised employee password exposes millions of identities across the entire nation in a matter of days.
It is the ultimate double-edged sword. You centralize the architecture to make the machinery of government work smoothly for the citizen. But in doing so, you put all the eggs in one incredibly fragile basket.
And threat actors don't need to coordinate a grand siege. They are simply drawn to the largest repositories of data on the board.
Right now, centralized civil service registries are the biggest prize.
And the FICOBA incident perfectly illustrates that the data itself is the weapon. You don't need to crack the encryption on a bank's vault to steal money if you have enough administrative data to trick the broader system into handing the funds to you.
So to briefly recap our journey today, a civil servant's compromised credentials allowed 16 days of unseen access to a massive national registry. It proves that you don't need to quote-unquote hack a bank to weaponize 1.2 million IBANs and identities.
And this raises an important question for you to mull over. As we move toward increasingly digital and centralized lives, is the convenience of having all our financial and civic data in one secure government registry actually worth the risk of a single compromised password exposing millions? Have we built a digital society where the blast radius of human error is just too large?
That is a lingering thought right there. And it brings us to how you navigate this exposed digital world. Protecting against these kinds of credential-based vulnerabilities requires a proactive strategy.
You can't just rely on the firewall anymore.
Exactly. You need to monitor the behavior inside your networks. If you want to ensure your organization is prepared for these modern threats, you need to visit www.kinsoft.com.au to discuss your security and IT needs. They can help you build systems that actively look for anomalies and protect your data.
The landscape has definitely shifted, and our defenses have to shift with it.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our discussion. Thank you for joining us on Tech Talks with Kinsoft. Remember to stay curious and stay secure. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening.